Soybean prices are dropping almost 5% today, heading for their worst day since July 2017. American soybean farmers are some of the businesses caught in the middle lately. There was a time when U.S. soybeans were trusted by almost everyone. They shipped millions of tons from the Mississippi area to ports all over East Asia, Europe, and North Africa. American soy meant you could count on it being good, there was lots of it, and the price was fair. But by mid-2025, wow, that good reputation fell apart. Shipments going to ports in China, the Netherlands, and Egypt were stopped, checked, or completely turned away. In less than 90 days, the third biggest U.S. crop export became the center of a huge international problem. The pattern wasn't random. A big container unloaded in China was found to have traces of banned bug spray leftovers. The chemical levels were at 0.11 parts per million, which was too high for Chinese rules. A different shipment arriving in Rotterdam set off alarms for having too much foreign stuff mixed in, including corn bits and bad soybeans that went beyond what Europe allows. In Alexandria, Egypt, officials refused to let in a shipment because it had too much water and you could see mold growing near the hatches. Behind each rejection was a bunch of test results, port reports, and quickly growing tensions between U.S. exporters and foreign inspection groups. At the heart was a mismatch. American grain met U.S. domestic export standards, but those standards no longer matched what global buyers expected. Testing methods in the U.S. still relied heavily on average. Samples with limited outside checking, water, leftover chemicals, and GMO presence were certified at the terminal level, not necessarily at the field or individual lot level. Meanwhile, foreign buyers wanted detailed transparency, tracking for specific lots, sealed identity preservation, and internationally certified chemical testing. Heat. Music for us exporters. The kronlons came fast, contracts were suspended, export profits collapsed. Traders faced penalties or had to resell downgraded beans at animal feed discounts. Midwest cooperatives, already stretched by narrow profit margins, began issuing notices of reclassification. Soybeans, once meant for premium export, now sat unsold. In train cars or barges redirected to domestic processing plants or livestock feedlots at a fraction of the original price. Farmers across Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri took the biggest hit. With soybean acres at record highs due to earlier global demand, the sudden wave of rejections left producers overexposed. Contracts locked in at higher values fell apart. Insurance claims shot up. Local elevators issued quality warnings and tightened intake standards. The ripple effects spread to credit lines, equipment purchases, and planting decisions for the next season. Internationally, trust in U.S. soy began to wear away. Major buyers called for renegotiated import terms, more strict documentation, and guarantees against cross-contamination from GMO and non-GMO crops. What once ran on relationships and reputation now required proof, and the U.S., for the first time in decades, found itself behind the curve. As global buyers moved away from inconsistent U.S. soybean shipments, another supplier quietly emerged at the front. Canada, though historically a smaller player in global soybean markets, Canada's producers have spent the last decade refining their edge, an edge built on quality, tracking ability, and premium crop characteristics. That long-term investment is now paying off in billion-dollar deals. Our mandate includes research and innovation, Canadian and foreign regulatory requirements, and international trade. Soy Canada's goal is to serve the needs of our members and our customers, ensuring a reliable supply of sustainably produced, high-quality soybeans. So what makes Canadian soybeans premium? The answer lies in a combination of genetics, growing conditions, and strict quality rules. First, a significant portion of Canadian soybeans are non-GMO, especially those grown in Ontario and Quebec. This aligns with the growing global demand for non-genetically modified ingredients, particularly in markets like the European Union, Japan, and South Korea. Buyers seeking cleaner label food products are willing to pay more for soybeans with verified non-GMO status and identity-preserved handling. Second, Canadian soybeans tend to have higher protein content, a key measurement. For tofu producers, soy milk manufacturers, and livestock feed makers, Thanks to Canada's mild climate and well-managed crop rotation systems, farmers are able to produce soybeans with consistent nutrition profiles and low levels of foreign material. Clean seed practices, strict moisture control, and state-of-the-art grain handling infrastructure have made Canadian beans a trusted choice in premium markets. Regions like southern Ontario, Quebec's Montérégie, and Manitoba's Red River Valley are leading the charge. In Ontario alone, more than 3 million metric tons of soybeans are harvested annually, with a growing percentage earmarked for export. These areas benefit from well-established shipping routes to Atlantic ports such as Montreal and Halifax, facilitating efficient access to Europe and Asia. Behind the scenes, both government agencies and the private sector have played vital roles. The Canadian Grain Commission enforces tight quality standards, while the Canadian Soybean Exporters Association works directly with overseas buyers to meet specific product needs. Programs like Canada Brand promote not just the product but the 12 countries' agricultural values, sustainability, transparency, and quality assurance. Music technology, too, is boosting Canada's position from blockchain-based tracking systems to remote quality monitoring tools. Exporters are able to offer real-time data on everything from growing conditions to pesticide usage and storage humidity. In high-value markets, where certification is king, this digital transparency gives Canadian producers a major competitive advantage. While the U.S. struggles with rejections and reputation damage, Canada has stepped into the gap. Not with the volume of its southern neighbor, but with the value. For buyers looking to reduce risk in their supply chains, Canadian soybeans now check every box: clean, traceable, protein-rich, and reliable. As concerns over U.S. soybean reliability rise, the global soybean market is undergoing a strategic realignment. From Asia to Europe, major buyers are shifting their purchasing strategies, moving away from American bulk commodities and toward Canada's premium identity-preserved soybeans. The result, Canada has not only filled the gap, but has secured billion-dollar deals once considered staples of U.S. agri-exports. China, the world's largest soybean importer, was one of the first to respond, following several high-profile rejections of U.S. shipments, often citing contamination, inconsistent quality, or tracking gaps. Chinese importers turned to Canadian suppliers. In 2024, a group of Chinese food processors and soy product manufacturers signed a multi-year contract worth over $1.2 billion, with Canadian exporters prioritizing access to non-GMO, high-protein soybeans suitable for tofu and soy milk production. Japan followed suit. Known for its strict standards on food imports, Japan has long been cautious about genetically modified crops. With Canada offering traceable, identity-preserved beans grown under strict environmental standards, Japanese companies like Kiko and Maruzen have entered into direct sourcing agreements. Bypassing traditional U.S. channels, a recent $600 million supply deal signed with a Quebec-based cooperative is proof of the growing trust in Canadian soybeans. We're not talking about cultivation, though. Now, what we're talking about is the use of GM soybeans in animal feed, and the Commission gave a pretty stark statement. 32 million tons are imported. That is going to be very, very difficult to replace. I just want to give my own experience. I'm in the free-range egg sector in Britain. That sector prided itself on using non-GM protein. However, we found it more and more difficult to import these soybeans because of EU rules on accidental mixing. Europe, too, is pivoting. The EU's Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy place increasing emphasis on sustainability, pesticide reduction, and non-GMO sourcing. US soybeans, often grown with chemical-intensive practices and without transparent tracking, are falling out of favor. In contrast, Canadian soybeans meet key EU sustainability metrics, and exporters have been quick to offer documentation to support their claims. A deal signed in late 2024 between the Netherlands and a coalition of Ontario soybean farmers marked a $750 million agreement over 5 years, one of the largest Canada-EU soybean contracts to date. What's behind these huge shifts? It's more than just quality. It's about risk management, reputation, and accountability. Global buyers today are under pressure from consumers, regulators, and investors to demonstrate environmental stewardship and supply chain transparency Canada's infrastructure policies and producer culture offer a near plug-and-play solution. For buyers looking to align with these values, in many ways, Canada is winning not because it produces more soybeans, but because it produces better soybeans and knows how to prove it. With certifications, third-party audits, and digital tracking, Canadian exports have become synonymous with premium quality. While the U.S. focuses on volume, Canada has quietly built a niche, one that now commands top dollar for global buyers looking for a clean, sustainable, and consistent supply. The message is clear: Canada delivers. The recent shift in global soybean purchasing patterns from the U.S. to Canada is more than a short-term market reaction. It is triggering wider-ranging economic and trade consequences across North America. As Canada celebrates